Hi everyone, welcome to my next video. I wanted to share more about my thoughts in regards to time and what I think time is, and specifically about uh, the past, present, and future. And I don't really understand a lot about physics. Actually, I don't understand anything about physics, but I have read a bit about quantum physics and about how uh, energy particles can really influence our thoughts, and I believe influence future possibilities that are only in the future as possibilities until such time that we focus with intention and change those possibilities into realities. And I have a firm sense that this is all connected to time as well. Now, this does not come from books, from learning anything from anyone else, but based on my own life experiences ever since I was very, very young. And for those of you who have read There Is a Something, you'll be familiar with many of these experiences already. But today I'd like to focus on a beautiful story that I believe I've told before in a previous video. But I'm going to tell it a little differently with more detail because I'm going to tell it as it relates to time and how I sense time. Because I don't think I sense it the way many other people do. And I've always been this way. So if you find yourself interested in my theories or my sense of time, I can talk much more about it if you'd like me to. But today I'm going to tell the story again about the man who I wrote about and who was the subject of my book, The Horseshoe. And it has been 50 years, just this past Thanksgiving, when I first met this man. And he will always be the love of my life. And he is a man who, upon looking at him at that very instant, I not only loved him, but I knew him. And I don't know how else I can explain it. And maybe you've had that feeling with someone at some point. But I have never had a feeling like that again since. And I'm sure I never will. Maybe I knew him in a past life. Maybe I'm all part of, I'm all, we're all part of a swirling kind of repetition, and that we are repeating perhaps an energy field that has yet to be resolved. And I can talk more about that too. Because I was swept up with this man, completely and utterly taken in by this man in a way that I can't explain. It's like being pulled by a magnet into someone's heart. And no matter how much you try, you can't resist and you don't want to resist. So, for those of you who have not read my book, The Horseshoe, this was a man who I met when I was 20. We were complete opposites. He was Mr. Wrong. I was Miss Right. And we shared some brief moments together. And ultimately, he broke my heart. But this is the story as to how it relates with time. Because I will never be able to explain how I knew what I knew, other than there are many things about time that we may never know. So here I am, leaving California to go back home to Massachusetts, and he is going to spend a year in prison. Now, before you get too alarmed, I was very young, very naive, and I thought that I could save this man. Well, goes without saying you can't save anyone, but back to the point of this story. I returned back to Massachusetts, and we wrote letters for the entire year that he was in prison, with the understanding that he was going to fly to Massachusetts and be with me when he got out. Yes, I did send him some money here and there, not that much, probably a total of $300 over the passing year. And so here we are, December 1976. Wow, that was a long time ago. 75 or 76. And I'm standing at the airport, and everyone's getting off the plane except for him, because he never boarded it in the first place. And what he had done was gotten out of prison and taken off with his friends to do whatever. I was heartbroken. I cried for 2 months, and then I got mad. Now here's what I want to focus on in this story, because I know from my experiences that our intentions have energy, and the stronger our energy creates our intentions stronger. Now, after crying for 2 months, not hearing from him, not knowing what happened, I had called his mother, whom I had met in California, and she had told me that he had been gone for 2 months. No one knew where he was, and I believed her. I'll never forget standing in my kitchen of my apartment, and I suddenly changed from being the sad, pitiful, broken-hearted young girl to a furious, determined young lady. And I called into work, and I said that I had the flu and I'd be gone for 2 weeks, and packed a backpack. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and I will never be able to explain how I knew all this. I could have taken a plane and gotten to California the very next day, but I knew he wasn't home, and I knew he wouldn't be home for a while. So taking a plane, I'd get there too soon, and then I'd look like a fool if I went to his house and his mother answered and he wasn't home. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get there right when he got home, and I was hell-bent to make it happen. So I decided to take a bus. Now, I don't know how I knew that I needed that time. I needed to take a bus. First of all, I didn't want to sit home fuming, and a bus would take 7 days. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting, because after 7 days of being on that bus, which was horrible, it was miserable, it was scary, and sometimes I wondered what the heck I was doing, but I was so determined, I didn't want to let anything stop me. The bus brought me to Sacramento, which was 10 miles away from Shingle Springs, California, where his house was, where he lived with his mother. And I realized that he wasn't home yet. How did I know? I have no idea. Well, I had a friend that lived in Sausalito, California, up north. So I called him and I asked him if I could stay with him for a few days, and he said sure. So I bought another bus ticket. I went up to San Francisco, and I remember standing at the Embarcadero, I believe they call it, and I got on a ferry, and I took that ferry to Sausalito. And I knew I had to spend a few more days waiting, because I knew that this man, Neil, wasn't home yet, but he was on his way. He was getting closer. And how did I know that? I don't know. I've just always been this way. And this feeling was so intense and so strong that I knew that if I didn't follow it, my plan wouldn't work out to be able to confront him. How am I doing on time? 10 minutes. So I got to Sausalito and I stayed with my friend for 3 days. And it was beautiful there. I love that little town. Now, this was back in 1977, and I'm sure it's a whole lot different now. But it was very quaint back then, and lots of little shops. And I absolutely loved visiting my friend. And after 3 days, I knew it was time to head back towards Sacramento. So I took a bus. Now, all this time, and this is going to be difficult to explain, but think about if you have a ball on a string, and that ball is a goal. But you take that ball and you throw it way, way out ahead of you. And then little by little, you pull on that string, and that ball is drawn to you because you're pulling it. And it's getting closer and closer to you. And that's how I felt. I felt that I was getting closer and closer to my goal. And I was, in a way, pulling it towards me. And in a way, it was happening on its own too. And I can't explain it any other way. The future was coming to meet me, is what I'm trying to say. And I could feel time, what I wanted, what my goal was, the reality of what I wanted as a possibility was actually slowly forming into reality. Now, I know all this sounds kind of crazy, and I'm not quoting anyone. I don't read anything. I'm not really interested in reading how anyone teaches any of this, because I think you have to experience it to really understand it, to really feel it. And so I took a bus to Sacramento. Now, bus depots are always in the worst part of town, and it was very scary there. But I kept to myself. I avoided strange people. And I got to a little town called Placerville. And I'm surprised I remember the name of the town because it's been so long. I got to Placerville, and the bus station told me they don't have any buses to take me to Shingle Springs. Now, they probably do now, but this was almost 50 years ago. So I'm standing in the bus depot, and I knew, as I'm pulling on that ball on the string, he was on his way home. I just knew it. And I had a short time frame to get there. And this, I don't know how I feel time, but I feel time in a different way. And I'm not going by days of the week or what's on my watch. I'm going by something that's telling me to listen. Because this thing that I want is going to happen in time. But I have to be there at the right time. I know it sounds really wild. Well, if you haven't read my book, you'll be shocked at the ending of this video. But I wasn't shocked, and I'll try to keep this short to get to the point. I stood outside that bus depot, and I realized there was only one way to get there. So I put my backpack over my back, and I walked out to the freeway, and I stuck out my thumb. And some guy in an old silver pickup truck, I still remember it, stopped, and he said, "Where are you headed?" And I said, "Shingle Springs." Now, I was terrified, but I still knew that I was going to get there. So I got in the truck, and I remember exactly what he said. And he said, "What's in Shingle Springs? Why are you going there?" And I said, to confront a son of a bitch who never deserved me in the first place. And he laughed and he said, "Boy, I wouldn't want to be him. You look really mad." And actually, I was exhausted, but I knew that my journey was almost over. Now, what was I trying to do? I just wanted to look at him in his face and ask him what the hell happened. I did not expect an honest answer. I didn't expect him to say sorry. I didn't expect anything. I just wanted to see his reaction. And I wanted him to know that I was not someone to just ignore and go away, because I wanted to show him how much he had hurt me and that I had come all this way to confront him. So there I am in this guy's truck, and he drops me off at the exit to Neil's house. And it was about a mile walk, and I remember walking that last mile thinking, all of a sudden, like a lightning bolt hit my brain, he was home. I knew he was home. And I had not felt that way this entire time. And it was like I had pulled that ball towards me and it was almost in my hand. And I don't know if we create our reality or if it's like a dual energy that one meets the other. And I don't know if I'll ever really understand it. But I turned the corner after walking a mile along that road. And it was actually called, what's the name of it? Now I can't think of it. Ponderosa Road. That's what it was. And it's still there. Ponderosa Road, Shingle Springs. And I turned the corner, and there was his house. And there was his Harley Davidson with the raised handlebars leaned on the kickstand in the front yard. And I knew that he had just gotten home. My heart was pounding. And I walked to the front door. It was just a simple, modest little house. His mother answered, and she remembered me because I had been there for Christmas dinner the year before, rather. "Oh, Barbara, what a surprise. Oh my gosh, how did you know Neil just got home an hour ago? Please come in and sit down. He's taking a nap. I'll go wake him up." So I sat at that kitchen table, so damn proud of myself, and I thought, now what? What's he gonna say? Well, he came out of that hallway in complete and utter shock. And he put his hands on top of his head. And I'll stop there because it did not end well. I stayed for a few days, never got an explanation. He actually sat in the back seat while his sister drove me to the airport and never even said goodbye to me. And I realized then that he was never worth it. But I had to go and do that to just get it out of my system. But what amazed me still to this day was how I knew so well my timing. And how did I know that the future was not only going to happen, but happen in the time that I needed in order to organize my journey? Now, I am really interested in what some of you might think. And this is just one of many stories that I've experienced throughout my life. And I try to keep my videos under 20 minutes, so that's why I'm looking. I remember, and I'll just keep this brief, I remember as a very young girl, maybe even as a toddler, sitting in our front yard, looking at the house across the street where my grandma used to live. And I never told anyone this, but I knew that my grandma was still there in that old house. Now, she died in 1926. And I was born in 1955. So this was probably 58, 59, or even before. And I knew she wasn't there in the physical sense, but I knew she was there in a different time. And that I couldn't see her in the physical sense, but she could see me. Because where she was in a different dimension. And that different dimension was higher than the one that we are in. And as time evolves, we float from one dimension to the other. And maybe they even overlap. I don't know. Now, how did I come up with all this? I just knew it. I just felt it my entire life. No one ever told me. And I believe that this explains a lot of my abilities to gain knowledge from touching objects. And that's in my book also. There is a something. So to this day, I still think of this man. And this Thanksgiving was 50 years that I had met him on Thanksgiving night. And that Thanksgiving night was the best night of my entire life. And I'm sure I will never have another night as special as that one, even though he was wrong for me. Sometimes you can love the wrong people for the right reasons. And I believe that's what happened to me. So I'm interested in what you think of this video, and I love sharing my stories. And it's getting kind of dark in here, so I'll try to brighten it up before I upload it. I have many more thoughts on what I believe time is. And I would like to take some days to really read more about quantum physics, because the little bit that I have read makes a lot of sense to me. Because there's something called, it's not string theory, but it has to do with when you meet someone, your energy connects with that person, and you are forever, for eternity, connected to that person, regardless of time or space. And also, love will bind you to a person forever, regardless of time or space, because there are no rules with love or time or space. I think people make rules only to give us a sense of continuity, which is to me ridiculous, because it does nothing but limit our own awareness and our own way of thinking of greater things. And maybe that's why these limitations are promoted in society, because we're not encouraged to think outside the box. And I'm fascinated by it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's about 5 degrees outside, and I'm wearing my robe. I decided to wear it in this video. I hope it's okay. And I might be wearing it a whole lot more often throughout the winter, sitting by the fire. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I love my channel, and it's very, very meaningful to me to be able to share these stories. And I hope they're meaningful to you. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.